Unique rules when inheriting an IRA from someone that's not your spouse. I've got those 7, that more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Back in 06, I remember I was early in my career, back in 2006, they changed the rules when you inherited an IRA from your spouse or even a 401k from your spouse. They made it much simpler, and they allowed that, well, when it's your spouse who passed away, you are able to take their retirement accounts, their 401k, their IRA, their Roth IRA, Roth wasn't used as much back then, and you can just turn it into your own. And essentially not have it be an inherited IRA, have it be your own IRA, your own Roth IRA. It made the rules much simpler. They don't force you to do that, but most of the time, when your spouse passes away, gosh, emotionally, just as awful as it could get, this brought a lot of simplicity to your finances. And yeah, oftentimes that's what you should do. Not all the time. There's very, very rare instances where you might not want to do that. That's why you got to be working with the CFP. But those are the rules. They simplified it for if your spouse passes away. But what about if you inherit an IRA or a retirement account from someone that's not your spouse? Okay, you've got to lump all of those just into one category. Most commonly, this would be from your parents, right? And again, from that rule, when one parent passes away, likely their spouse is the beneficiary. The spouse receives their retirement and makes it their own. But then when the second parent passes away, and you inherit their IRA, whether you and your siblings and you get it proportionate, or however the situation is, when you inherit their IRA, well, what are the rules? You cannot just combine that IRA, combine that retirement account with your own. So if your parent had an IRA and you've got an IRA, you can't just turn it into your own. You can't, if it's a Roth IRA, you can't turn it into your own. If they had an old 401k, which I'd be surprised by, you can't just turn it into your own. There are special rules related inheriting an IRA from a non-spouse. What are some of the most surprising of those rules? Let's get into it. First, you cannot contribute to that inherited IRA. That's where you would use your own IRA as opposed to this inherited IRA to make contributions into. So you cannot contribute to this inherited IRA. But that doesn't mean you can't make changes to this inherited IRA. You can both change how it's invested, but you can also change where it's invested. If your folks, say, had the account with one financial advisor on the other side of the country, and you say, nah, I want to have this inherited account managed by my CFP, and we'll make sure that the investments are consistent with the rest of my portfolio, and we'll do the tax management distributions all sort of connected. You can transfer that inherited IRA into to your new financial advisor. However, you cannot do a 60-day rollover. So you can't take the money out of the inherited IRA with the old advisor and add it to a new inherited IRA with your advisor. It's got to be a direct transfer from the other account into the new inherited IRA. So you can move the money. That's the second. Third unique rule with inherited IRAs, this one might surprise you. You might be able to do a special charitable tax strategy called a qualified charitable distribution. Now, what are the rules with that? You, not the person that you inherited the money from. You have to be age 70 and a half or older. And most people, this gets confusing because you think, well, my parents, they were using this IRA to make donations to the church. And yeah, their CFP had them doing donations directly from the IRA, directly to the church, and it was a qualified charitable distribution. So therefore, that withdrawal, that donation to the church wasn't landing as taxable income on their return. Now that I'm inheriting the dollars, I have a required minimum distribution. We'll talk about that here next. So therefore, I can move that money to the church as well. No, not unless you're age 70 and a half. If you are age 70 and a half, this inherited IRA is an IRA, and IRAs are permissible accounts for a qualified charitable distribution. Fourth special rule, I actually had this question recently working with a client that we've served for a long time, and we're about to the stage where we're going to start doing some Roth conversions, and he said, hey, can we convert that inherited IRA that I got from mom? And you know, the rules change all the time, so I actually triple checked just to make sure that there wasn't a unique rule in the Secure Act 2.0, going to get to that just here in a second, that changed this. I don't believe there has been. I haven't seen any announcement. So no, you cannot do a Roth conversion of an inherited IRA. It's an appropriate question from this client because they've got to take a little bit out of this IRA every year. It's a little frustrating. Number one, they could forget to do it. Number two, they've got to pay the tax each year then a little bit, and be great to just move this to a Roth, have no more required minimum distribution. Can't do that. Cannot do a Roth conversion of an inherited IRA. Okay, this fifth one here, this is the biggie. You might have required minimum distribution. You might also have the 10-year rule. So let me try and thread the needle here. If you inherited an IRA from someone who passed before 1/1 of 2020, then there were these old rules at that time where you could take out as much as you wanted to from that inherited IRA, but every year you at least were required to withdraw a minimum amount. That's right, there was a required minimum distribution every single year from that inherited IRA. Even though the rules changed starting 1/1/2020, again, that inherited IRA from someone that passed away before 1/1 of 2020, this annual required minimum distribution, you're still able to do that now that the rules have changed. You can still stretch out that IRA. There's no requirement that you've got to withdraw or empty the entire account within 10 years. If the person passed away before 1/1 of 2020, you can continue to just take that required minimum distribution. Until you want to take more or need to take more, you can do that. They call that the stretch IRA. Now, the new rules, Secure Act 1.0, said that if someone passed away after 1/1 of 2020 and you inherit the dollars, then there's the new 10-year rule, which means you've got to empty the account within 10 years. There's still some ambiguity. The IRS is giving this now 4 years of sort of grace period where they're still ironing out, well, are you going to need to take an annual required minimum distribution every year and have the account emptied within 10 years? Or is it just the 10-year rule? And it seems to suggest if the individual that you're inheriting the account from was already forced to take their required minimum distributions, if they were already over what's now age 73, then you'd need to do that every year and empty the account within 10 years. But they haven't clarified yet. They haven't. At some point this year, 2024, they should come out and say definitively this is the rule. But if you inherit an IRA from someone that is not your spouse, or that is your spouse that you've said, no, I want to keep it as an inherited IRA, and they passed away after 1/1 of 2020, the new 10-year rule exists. Therefore, you have to empty the account within 10 years of the year that the individual passed. Number 6, your distributions from inherited IRAs, not Roth IRAs, inherited IRAs will be taxable to you. They don't become taxable income to the person that you inherited the dollars from, so there's no estate tax return that you need to keep doing every year for that deceased individual. It's taxable to you, but there's no 10% penalty. And guys, that's the unique instance that I've mentioned. When you inherit an IRA from a spouse, you can just make that IRA your own, but you don't have to. And this is the unique situation. Say you become a widow or a widower in your 50s, and you need to live on this money. You need to withdraw some of this money for you to live on. Well, you're not age 59 and a half, and therefore taking your spouse's IRA and making it your own and then withdrawing out of that, you're not age 59 and a half, so you have to pay tax, but then you also have to pay a 10% penalty if you don't meet an exception. If, however, you leave it as an inherited account like you'd be forced to for inheriting a non-spouse's IRA, the withdrawals that you make at any age, they're taxable, but there's no 10% penalty. And then seventh unique rule with inheriting an IRA is you receive that IRA because you were the beneficiary of the original owner's IRA. now that you have this inherited IRA, you should name a successor beneficiary so that if something happens to you, now who gets the dollars so that it doesn't go into your estate, into probate, that sort of thing, that you list a successor beneficiary so that they receive it if something happens to you while you still own this account as well. Inheriting IRAs, inheriting retirement accounts, shoot, having retirement accounts, right? Those are reasons to have a certified financial planner. Your CFP should be providing clarity, confidence, but also creativity. These rules don't make sense. It's not common sense, guys, and the rules are constantly changing. So make sure you're aware of those rules, both as you're building wealth, but also if you inherit dollars from family members or loved ones. So work with your CFP on that. Make sure you're doing comprehensive financial planning. This involves your tax situation, present financial position, your investment strategies, your retirement strategies, your estate planning. Guys, it touches easily 5 of the 6 areas of CFP. So make sure you're working with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.